a war thinking we'll rally around the flag if we're in a regional war that expands into Iran. The Russians have said they're going to back Syria. The Iranians said today they'll do whatever it takes. So this really does look like it's shaping up towards a third world war, the first great war of the 21st century. Is there any way to avoid this? Because the bankers want this political diversion.
I don't see any way of averting it unless the people rise up and come out against it, but they're not. I mean, they're still buying into the baloney. And you really rounded it all up with hitting the areas around the globe. The war is already on, Alex. What's going on in Syria, I mean, we're talking, people have a vision of, this, desert country. I mean, these are metropolitan areas. This would be like, bombing Houston.
They've got al-Qaeda blowing up police stations, military bases, shopping malls, and admitting it.
And again, let's go back to the beginning of al-Qaeda. When did it begin and who funded it first? Wasn't it the Americans trying to get the Russians out of Afghanistan? That's my recollection of it. It never stops. What people need to know are that the military are a bunch of losers. Everything that they touch, they turn into a disaster. Let's look at the track record. They lost the Korean War. They lost the Vietnam War. They lost the Iraq War. They lost the Afghan War. Now they're shifting and they're moving into the Middle East. And they're doing it admittedly. They keep starting new wars after they lose old ones. People wonder why our economy is going down the toilet. Couldn't be because of the $1.5 trillion that we're spending in war and war-related expenses.
Couldn't be the 20,000 drones that the Air Force alone has. In fact, let me interrupt you just to toot your horn. Occasionally I see comments on INFOWARS.com or PrisonPlanet.com when we post, one of these PrisonPlanet.tv interviews for everybody, not just PrisonPlanet.tv viewers. And I will see the little snipes going, "Where's the first great war, Gerald? You wrote that almost 2 years ago, and you said it." If they don't call Libya and Syria and all of this bedlam and all these expanded wars and all of this a big war, but Obama's a peace president. Libya and Syria aren't wars. They're revolutions. When the U.S. and NATO give them hundreds of thousands of, weapons and they're shipping missiles and nerve gas out of Libya to use. See, Gerald, you're wrong. This isn't a war. The little minions out there sniping at you, they're right. I mean, they're not openly saying they're getting ready to hit Iran in all the news. Russia isn't threatening to use nuclear missiles in Western Europe. Everything's fine. You're a pessimist porn dealer. By the way, the economy's great, too. We left the recession 3 years ago, even though they admit we never did. Because you're right, you're wrong. You want to apologize to people?
Yeah, they're trolls. I know who these people are. And the other thing, let's move beyond the Middle East. How about those millions of people that are taking to the streets in Spain virtually every other week? The indignados. How about what's going on in Greece and how that whole society is breaking down? Crime is skyrocketing across Europe. Look at the new numbers that just came out in Italy. Oh, son of a gun, the unemployment rate over there is shooting around 12%. That's the official one. 25% in Spain. And they still call it a recession? Give me a break. Hey, let's keep moving on. What is it now? Oh, it's only the 4th month of negative GDP in Italy, only down about 1% this last quarter. Look what's going on in the UK. You want to see a bread and circus show? I got one for you. Let's call it the Olympics. It's beautiful. Your country's going down the crapper. Hey, God save the Queen. Take that one, Queenie.
And they've got to order the military in to fill the unsold seats. Talk about let them eat cake.
And then you go back and you want to see more bread and circuses? Go back to the 2004 Olympics. Hey, who was it that held it then? Couldn't have been Greece, could it? No, not the rich Greeks, the ones that don't have 2 drachma to rub together. You can see the whole thing is collapsing.
And that's another point. What is it, $14 billion the Brits are having to spend just to pay to have an event that people can't even afford to go to?
Not only can they not afford to go to it, it's killing business throughout England. In London, the businesses are dead. They're giving huge discounts at the theater. And, you know, the theater's really a hot place to go to. So, no one's making any money off this other than the corporate whores, the ones that always make the dough. So when you put it all together, oh, look right here in the nice old USA. Oh, look at the little riots that were going on in Anaheim. Oh, don't pay any attention to that. Those are just a bunch of disgruntled people. They're not angry about the $285 million luxury hotel that's going up there in Anaheim, and they gave the guys tax breaks worth $158 million as people don't have food to eat or jobs anywhere. No, that has nothing to do with it.
Gerald, let me just stop you there for a moment because, again, you've predicted this rotting of society, as you called it earlier, and that's why I brought up the trolls. I think a lot of them aren't even trolls. They're in delusion, and as more and more of what I've talked about, you've talked about, many other people that have their heads screwed on straight comes true, you're going to see a lot of people appreciate what we've done, but you're going to see others who've clung to the delusion, kind of like Hitler in the bunker, who are going to get very, very angry at those of us that have broken down. But when you talk about a rotting society, you were starting to rattle off examples of this. Please continue.
Well, again, every day you pick up the paper. A guy, walks into a hospital, blows his wife's brains out, kills his mother-in-law, a boyfriend, 3 kids. I mean, I remember when there was a movie, Truman Capote wrote it when I was a young guy, wrote the book and they did the movie In Cold Blood. Oh, you thought it was terrible. Guess what? Every day's in cold blood in the United States today. It's just become a fact of life. How about another flash mob somewhere in a Walmart? You're watching society crumble in front of us. The gap between the rich and the poor is the widest in the United States than any of the industrialized nations. All of the prostitutes bowing to the Buffetts, bowing to the Gates, bowing to the Zuckerbergs. Oh, and look at the numbers that came out with the last week's unemployment. Great jobs. Great jobs are being created. Nearly 30% of them pay poverty-level wages. Great jobs are being created. Great jobs are being created. Oh, yeah. Lost 750,000 full-time jobs since March. Hey, don't worry about it. Why should people earn a living wage? They're just lazy. They don't want to work. Look, it's great moving back home with mommy and daddy after you get out of college and you're $80,000 in debt and you'll never get a job to pay it off and you're an indentured servant. Why be angry? Salute the president. I salute. I'll give you a salute, but the people do it. Look at the presidential reality show. What are they talking about today? Obama came up with a new name for Mittens Romney. Romneyhood. Isn't that nice? Oh, it's perfect for the presidential reality show.
I want to get to that, but first I want to go through the New Trends Journal, the LIBOR scandal, the real reason we got you here, Gerald. I could talk to you for hours, but I know you've got to go soon. Continuing here, talking about the rotting of society, looking at other cultures, looking at history, looking at the current trend, we do see crime exploding. We see fraud exploding. We see arrogance and crime by government and just the seizure of property and forcibly inoculating children nationwide without parental consent. Government, making school kids have abortions without telling their parents. Just rampant crime police shooting people in handcuffs and not getting in trouble. I mean, really craziness. And I'm not just picking on the police. It's in the general culture, this degeneration. But it's also a degeneration in the culture, in the media, in the family. The system has done this by design, knowing that if they bring in the immoral virus that people will stand down. So it's almost a rudderless society having its prosperity taken as the establishment builds up this military force internally against us. They know what's coming. They know you're right, Gerald. They know that they've engineered this. So tell us, where do you see it going right now if we don't turn things around? And then I want to get into the latest Trends Journal, LIBOR, and more.
Well, where is it taking us? The National Defense Authorization Act that Obama signed on New Year's Eve. Where's it taking us? How about all the executive orders that Obama's signed? How about the new ruling that it's okay to, send drones over, people's homes to arrest them? I mean, where's it going? They know where it's going. And society's unraveling, and they're doing everything they can to make sure that we don't step out of line. And that's where it's going. So when you put all the pieces together, they're going to continue to clamp down on people like you and me and others that are standing up and speaking out. And while the rest of the sheep will get all aboard, next train to Auschwitz, kiss those calories goodbye. You're going to love it there. So that's where it's going.
What's the time frame on it?
It's now. It could be tomorrow. Look, you see all the reports coming out about the false flags. You see all the reports coming out what they were doing under the Kennedy administration in Santo Domingo. You see how they were they were even talking about blowing up the American consulate to rile the people.
Yeah, that's been declassified. That we all defend Kennedy because he said no to Operation Northwoods, killing U.S. citizens, and then it turns out Robert Kennedy was planning to blow up the U.S. consulate, just in Honduras, to blame his enemies.
Yeah, I mean, so look doesn't anybody understand? These are psychopaths. These are sick people. They're Robert McNamara's. They're Donald Rumsfeld's. Marvel comic books could not have come up with a better creature than Dick Cheney. And people believe them? How could any self-respecting person follow these people? They're destroying us. They're destroying our nation, and no one seems to care. And when you talked about the destruction of society, look what they've elevated. I don't want to go into detail because I don't want to embarrass the person, but it was a government person that I had a meeting with. And it was about, I want to say, let's raise the role model so that the young people could have a higher role model to follow. So we had discussions, and she looks at me, and I go on, and I said, when you think about what they've done with gangster rap, I said, figure it out. They elevated the lowest level of society, the most violent of criminals, that they wouldn't give shoelaces to or belts because they'd kill you with them. So she goes, now you have to respect that culture. It's not, I don't have to respect that culture. You don't sell that. Then she really put me over the top. She said, well, even the mafia, as bad as it seems, there are good elements. I said, you don't know what you're talking about. There's nothing good about the mafia. There's nothing good about gangster rap. And now I want to bring this all together because you were talking about how at all levels of society it's rotting. If I was a guy that still was living in the Bronx and I had a different mentality and I wanted to pull off a dirty deal, and I'm saying here, this is what we're going to do. And all of a sudden, Joey says, hey, Gerald, come on, man, that's not right. We're going to screw this one and that one. I'd look at Joey, and you know what I'd say? What are you, a jerk? The banks are screwing us. The government got your brother killed for fighting a stupid war.